Well, it's time to start tumbling our batch of rocks. And we're going to follow this batch all the way through the process. Now, as you can see, over here is my tumbler. Actually, there are two tumblers here. And I've got 4 barrels. Now, I'm not going to show you every one of those. I have those ones already filled and ready to go. But I have this one here, which is going to be our barrel that we're going to watch as the process unfolds. So what I've got, I have chosen some rocks and get them up here where you can see them. And as I mentioned a few weeks back, these are all fairly hard rocks. They would all fall in the 7 range on the Mohs scale, and you can see the video about that earlier if you look back. I've got some. This is some red tiger eye, and this is a little bit of brecciated jasper. Got some what's called tree agate sometimes. And you'll notice, and I've got some other types of jasper here, and I don't remember all of the names of all of these, but I've got an assortment of sizes, and it's really important to keep in mind. You don't want all big, and you don't want real big, like, something that would be like a huge, maybe the size of a lemon or something. Because these barrels, this is a 3-pound barrel, and you don't want to overfill it and you don't want to underfill it. You're going to have to fill it just the right way, but you also need a mixture of sizes. So you'll see I've got some nice chunks here. This is about the size of a $50, and you're down more to a quarter size, and then we have some very little chunks here. So you want a good mixture of sizes. That's really important because the different sizes are going to pick up the grit and distribute it. And so if you just went with great big rocks, it would not work near as well. And as you'll see in succeeding weeks, I actually, as we move along, I add ceramic particles to make up for the loss of volume, because as the tumbling process goes on, these rocks are going to wear down and they're going to get smaller. Well, this is one that I've thrown in here just for fun. I don't think it will take much of a polish because there's too much pitting in it, but just to show you the difference as we go through. So these are rocks that should all take, most of them anyway, take a good polish. And over the next month or so, we're going to watch this as it unfolds. So let's load the barrel. I've got my barrel here. Now I've already made this mixture of rocks, so I'm just going to hand fill. The goal when you're filling these barrels, at least the lower tone barrels, is you want to get them about 3/4 full. Okay, again, too many rocks and you won't get good tumbling action. Too few rocks, and they'll beat one another to death. So, and you also still won't get good tumbling action. Okay, so I'm going to dump the rest of those in there, get that out of the way. Okay, so I've got this about 3/4 full. I actually have a little gauge. This is just a piece of PVC, and it's about 1 3/8 inches. In fact, it's exactly 1 3/8 inches. Sorry, I bumped the camera there. And if I put that in here, it comes out pretty much level with the top, and that lets me know that I've got just the right number of rocks in there. Okay, so that's the first step. Now there's 2 things that I'm going to use. I'm going to put this aside for a second. I'm going to use our old friend borax again, but this time only about a tablespoon. So let's put that in. Put that where you can see it. And this is just to kind of help the grit and the rock as it wears down to form what's called a slurry, and it's just kind of a little thicker mixture that will again facilitate the polishing process. So that's a little bit more than a tablespoon there. That's about a tablespoon. So I'm just going to put that in there like that. Again, there are other things that you can use, but borax is kind of my go-to. The main thing with borax, too, and it's really important to remember this, is particularly when you're doing the burnishing, the rinsing, the borax water, as you dump it out, don't dump it where you want stuff to grow. There's an old saying, where borax goes, nothing grows. It will kill plants. So just be careful about where and how you put it when you dump it out. And we'll talk about that too with this as we rinse it out next week. Okay, so now it's time to put in the grit. Okay, and I've got a big number 1 here. I always mark my containers so that I remember what grit is what. And this is what I call step 1 grit. There we go, get it 60 to 90. That's just the gauge of the grit. And for that, I'm going to actually hold off for just a second, and I'm going to put water in here first. I always tend to get ahead of myself and want to put the grit in before I put the water in. But it's important to get that water, so I don't know if you can see that real well. But I'm going to fill this up before I put the grit in, and I'll explain in a minute why. Okay, you want to fill it up to where the water line comes up to just about the bottom of the very top part. Okay, so I don't want this just filled and brimming up with water. I want a little bit of the rocks to be sticking out, just like that. Okay, so that's good. I dump a little of that extra water there so it doesn't keep dripping on me. Okay, now it's time for the grit. Okay, for this, I've got a 1/4 cup, and that's all I need. Now, the reason I put the water in first is I want to make sure the grit kind of stays on top right now, because if it gets too far down, then it can kind of collect in the bottom, and I don't want that to happen. I want it to be right on top until I'm ready. So I'm just going to dump that in there. And you can see it's starting to soak through already. Get that out of the way for a moment. Okay, now it's time to put the lid back on again. So I've got my lid, my washer. We're going to put the rubber lid on first. Again, it's a little chilly here today, so the rubber is a little bit on the stiff side. Make sure I've got a good seal there. I'm going to put the top on and push down hard. There we go, got my exercise for the day. Okay, put the washer on. And I've got it nice and tight. I'm going to give it a shake. And then this is going to go on the tumbler like this. I'm not going to turn it on right now because I've got several others to fill up. Actually, I am going to turn it on, but I'll turn it on after I stop the video. Once I have all 4 tumblers loaded, I'm going to leave those 24/7 for the next week. And a week from today, we're going to open that one up and see what we've got. So that's all we've got for today. And I hope you enjoyed it. And next week we'll see what our rocks look like. Have a good week. I'm Jim Pence with See the Light.